Airstrikes have escalated in Gaza since Tuesday, causing a spiraling casualty count now exceeding 500 lives lost. But it is not just the violence that has been pushed to the brink. It is also the ability of emergency responders to handle it, having faced aid and electricity barricades for weeks. At the start of March, Israel shut all routes for aid, including life-saving health equipment, to entering Gaza, after deciding not to engage with the second phase of the ceasefire. 1 week later, it cut off electricity in the besieged enclave. In the wake of these blockades, accused of being illegal under international law by powerful critics around the world, doctors in Gaza report a critical shortage of drugs and basic surgery items. On the day the ceasefire officially collapsed, the UN counted 20 ventilators for neonatal intensive care units and 9 portable newborn indicators being prevented entry from Gaza. Now, among medics working round the clock to treat the hundreds of wounded with minimal resources is Dr Mohammed Mustafa, an Australian medic volunteering with the Palestinian-Australian-New Zealand Medical Association. Earlier this week, his footage went viral when he shared his experiences the night Israel relaunched intensive airstrikes.
We've worked throughout the entire night. We haven't stopped. The bombing has been non-stop. We've run out of ketamine. We've run out of propofol. There are 7 girls getting their legs amputated, no anesthesia. I haven't slept. We went to bed at about 1 o'clock and at 1:30 the bombing started. It's about 10 a.m. now. I feel dizzy and lightheaded. The smell of burnt flesh is still in my nose.
Earlier today, I spoke to Dr Mustafa about who the current attacks are victimizing and how those left to pick up the pieces are coping without vital supplies.
The bombings are continuous right now in Gaza. It's something out of a horror film, people screaming, children lifeless on the floor. It was about 7 or 8 doctors, and we had 156 deaths in Gaza City itself. We had hundreds injured as well. And
I mean, it's unimaginable. Something that you just stated was that you've seen lots of women and children. Israel's army has said that this week's airstrikes have targeted Hamas military sites and vessels. But can you tell us, just from your experience as a medic on the ground, who are the victims coming into your care?
It's very hard for me to, view that as a legitimate response to what we saw, because that's not what we saw. We just saw women and children, even before the ceasefire, especially more so children than women. It's still harrowing just to think about, because it's been 3 days and I'm still running on the adrenaline of that night because of just the screams and the smell of burning flesh that was coming in.
Dr Mustafa, I mean, I can see in your face just how affected you are by these pictures in your brain. And it is really, really hard, I think, for anyone from afar to understand it. Following your social media, people will see a reality on the ground that they will not get on many news broadcasts. It is so difficult to convey. But the media face additional hurdles to do with graphic censorship of distressing imagery. There is, however, one unforgettable image on your Instagram feed that we can share directly here on Middle East Eye. And it shows a boy just staring at a wall for an hour after reportedly losing all of his family members. On your feed, Dr Mustafa, you also introduce us to children who have terrible wounds but haven't uttered a single word since arriving in the hospital, or children who barely recognize their loved ones. Is there anything that you can say to people witnessing this through a screen about what you have learned seeing it up so close?
When you see it, because obviously, like everybody else, I'm one of the millions of people around the world that have seen these images over the last few months. And sometimes it's very hard to humanize what you see when you see so many lifeless bodies. They become just graphic images. But when you're there and you have these children screaming out to you in pain, and you have children reaching from underneath the beds when there was these mass casualties. I had one child grab my ankle asking me to help them. I mean, I'm sorry I get emotional about this, but they're human beings to me. They are people, their lives matter. And it's very, very hard as a doctor to know that if they were in the UK, if they were in Australia, even if we had a mass casualty event like this, there are so many of them that we could have saved if we had the right equipment, if we had the medical personnel. We could have done something, we could have helped these people, but instead I had to watch them die. Many of them died in my arms as I was carrying them to and forth the bed, the CT scanner. We talk about the hostages, the Israeli hostages, and it is important to mention that because those people are also suffering as well. But what about the 2 million Palestinian hostages who have been deprived of food, water, electricity, medical care? What about them? Are they not hostages as well? This one woman had a neck injury that resulted in a piece of her bone severing her spinal cord. She is paralyzed in her bed. She also had a dissection of one of her blood vessels, and she's paralyzed. And there are no neurosurgeons that are able to operate on her here. She needs specialist care. Her cousin was killed. Her daughter was killed. Half of her family were killed, and now she is paralyzed. And I'm going there and giving her family baby wipes to clean her. That's all I can offer her. All I can offer is just say, hey, listen, maybe these are some baby wipes. You can clean her. And I'm just sat there, I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? This woman is disabled in the middle of this war zone where there's not even buildings, and she's paralyzed from the neck down. We can't even monitor their oxygen levels because there's one oxygen monitor in the emergency department, and I carry a personal oxygen monitor, and that's it. So I'm walking around the wards.
Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to pick up on that. There are oxygen monitors that the UN has reported being turned away from the border. And that's something I want to highlight about the context you're operating in, that weeks before these airstrikes, an aid blockade was imposed on Gaza by Israel. Electricity cuts have also been hampering medical facilities for weeks. Are you able to share whether those blockades have impacted your ability and medics' abilities to respond to what is happening right now?
Well, when you've got 150 people that arrive in the emergency department all at the same time, we're bleeding out, and we can't even, get a heart rate on them or a blood pressure on them because we don't have the equipment. What chance do we have actually to start treating them? And obviously, the large majority of these injured coming in are children, and we just don't have the equipment. So we're injuring these children by using adult-size equipment to, help them breathe. I feel like I'm the one, harming these children as well. Because what are we going to do? I don't know how to stress enough how little we have of medications. We don't have the equipment, and we don't have the medical professionals to help. And I'm really struggling. To help these kids. And I just want anyone just to hear us and just to help us out.
What of your safety, Dr. Mustafa, as well? You were, of course, in the line of fire as well yourself, and you can see the facilities available for anyone who is wounded in these airstrikes. Do you fear for your own safety and the safety of your colleagues?
We are trapped where we are, we're stuck where we are. And foreign NGOs are being killed. So my safety obviously is a concern. My parents are obviously very worried. My family is very worried. I'm worried. But what I'm trying to focus on, because I know if I was to think about it too long, it is scary. I'm trying not to think about me. I'm trying to focus on these kids and these patients, and especially these children. And I'm trying to do the best I can with what I've got to help them. And I've got a lot of these patients that are here that need help, and I've got a lot of doctors that are overworked, that are underprepared and underskilled for the task and the complexity. I'm underskilled and I'm underprepared for this as well. We need highly specialized surgeons, trauma surgeons, plastic surgeons. We need neurologists. We need renal physicians. We need respiratory physicians. We need intensivists. We need so many different doctors. I can't stress enough how difficult the situation is.
Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, Thank you so much for your time and thank you for your work. Viewers can follow Dr. Mustafa on Instagram at beastfromthe_Middle East, and you can follow reporting from Middle East Eye on the ground via our website, middleeasteye.net. Thank you.